Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome to the Umineko Chapter 3 thoughts. My thoughts, specifically. Sorry, it's been a couple days on this, I have been very busy, but just as a point of reference, the point where I'm at currently is I've done my first video of Chapter 4, and that's all I've done so far. So, in fact, this should come out before the next video for it. Anyway, I had people give me a few questions because I have been a bit busy, so I haven't had a lot of time to think about this, just to help kickstart my ideas. And one question that I really liked was, how did I feel about Beatrice's trick? Did I get tricked by it? And, as it may be no surprise, I really did fall for her trick. I mentioned this somewhat, but, I've just been thinking about it more recently. The way trust works for humans is that initially people don't have a trust for each other. They might have a very basic level of trust for individual humans, but nobody ever just starts with a huge level of trust. It takes time to build that trust. And for most video games, most stories, maybe with the exception of a book, you could say a really long novel might be able to do this as well, but most stories don't have enough time to do this kind of thing. My point being that most stories don't have, if it's a movie or a video game, unless it's a really long video game, most of them don't have the time just to give you this level of trust. Because what it takes to build trust is you have to keep giving positive reinforcement over and over again. You're not a threat. You have the other person's interest in mind, and that's what Beatrice did for Battler. She, over the course of the story, she very much was, you saw that she felt bad about what she had done. She wanted to do something to get Battler's trust back, and after a while you realize that she started to fully understand what she had done, or at least she gave the illusion of it, a very convincing illusion of it. And just over the long period of time, it really helps solidify that she realizes what she's done is wrong and that she's changed. And the longer and more time you get to do that, the more trust you build up. And I know it can be done in a shorter period of time, but just the extra length of time really does help solidify this feeling more than a shorter period of time. Because, when you look back on it, you might think, well, you could see over a shorter period of time if someone got tricked, you could say, well, that was obvious. They only knew each other for so long, an hour or two. But this story takes place over such a long period of time, you really don't feel bad about falling for the trick, I think. Just because, you do feel bad, you feel betrayed, but you don't feel like you could have seen something like that coming. Like there was no way to prepare for that. And I think that's the difference, is that it's very difficult with this amount of time to kind of realize that it was in fact a trick. Now that being said, even though the entire last chapter, or at least a good chunk of it, was a ruse, I still feel like Beatrice at least felt something from all this. You can kind of get that feeling because I just started chapter 4. Not really a spoiler of any kind, but at the beginning, Beatrice definitely seems like she's a little bit concerned about Battler's feelings. She says, how's Battler doing? And she gets told that he's not doing well. But this definitely seems to show that Beatrice is kind of concerned about Battler, because she knows kind of how he deals with this kind of stuff, and she's worried he's going to get locked up. And you could say, well, she wants to keep going with the game. So that makes sense that she'd be concerned, just for the fact that if he won't continue with the game, she can't continue with the game herself. But at the same time, I kind of see it more as she seems still a little bit concerned about Battler. Maybe she feels bad about what she did. Maybe she doesn't feel bad, but at the very least, she seems to feel something. And she knows that could negatively have affected him. Now, it seems that he's gotten through it, but still, it definitely seems like Beatrice might have had something there. Now, someone else asked who I thought Beatrice might be, since Beatrice has to be a human from all of this. Otherwise, Battler is wrong. And I'm sticking with Battler's side. So I know that there's holes in this theory, and I still kind of need to work it out more, but I feel like Beatrice might be Rosa. And here's why. Just because I know this still has problems, but Rosa knew Beatrice from a long time ago. She's had a lot of time to think about this. And we already know that Beatrice did exist as a human long ago. And then she died. This makes me think that because Rosa was the one that had such an experience with her, and then she had such a traumatic experience later, where she views it as she killed Beatrice, that she may in fact be dealing with a lot of stress, post-traumatic stress issues here, that she may twist this truth in her mind and convince herself that maybe she's Beatrice. I don't know a lot about mental issues, but that just sounds like possibly a viable something or another. Now, I know there are a few holes in this theory, namely that she has a hole in her head, but I would think that while Rosa might be, quote, Beatrice, she might not necessarily be the only culprit in this situation, because we did have a lot of situations where it seems a little odd that there would be only one culprit. Maybe they had some kind of weapon to assist them, but even still it does seem a little bit odd in some circumstances, namely the circumstance of Rudolph and his wife getting carried out without a struggle. And I would think that there'd be multiple culprits. At the moment, all I can really think about is Rosa, which kind of doesn't work for anything beyond the first set of murders. But Eva definitely seems like she would be in there as well. Both of them were motivated by money. That's kind of my thought on the matter. Definitely some holes in there, well, how could so-and-so have killed her if she was dead, or if she was somewhere, or the Red Truth said she didn't. I know, but that's just what I've got currently going for me. I was also asked how much of this chapter I thought was real and how much was fake, and that's kind of important, because if you remember, things that Battler doesn't necessarily see can't always be trusted, because magic only happens within the cracks of truth, and what Battler sees can effectively be called truth. But what he doesn't see, you don't really have any backup on that. So there was a lot that Battler didn't see. In fact, for a good portion of this game, he was sort of stuck up with all the kids in the guest house, and he just heard all of this secondhand. And in fact, a lot of these people got killed by themselves, and then they were discovered later. In fact, all of them, really. But honestly, Battler wasn't a part, anywhere near any of these things for almost all of them. Sorry, voice crack. So I would say that a large portion of this story just didn't happen as it was. It was probably Eva doing a lot of this, and I know Eva couldn't have done all of it, but I would imagine her husband probably helped some with that. And in addition, we heard Eva Beatrice tell a lot of things to Battler, a lot of things in red. The trick to using the red seems to be to give an answer that will confuse the person receiving it, aka you don't give them the entire truth, because the entire truth is going to lead them closer to the truth. However, if you give them a, technically true kind of thing, it leads them to make assumptions. Even if you don't directly say, I didn't murder that person, if you say it in a way that makes it sound like you murdered them when what you're actually saying is you didn't murder them, it will lead them to assume. And if they make the wrong assumptions and they base other assumptions upon those assumptions, then you run into problems. Just a few small things left. This is starting in chapter 4, I should say. This is the first time that we've seen Bernkenstel, if I said that right, get involved with the game as a whole. She's kind of been observing mostly up until she sent Angie into there. And I'm curious to see where this is going to change things, because now, just from a little bit I've seen of Chapter 4, Angie and, I guess you heard from the end of the Chapter 3 Witch's Tea Party, or whatever you'd call it, Angie's now going to actually be a new witch. So I would imagine that that's going to throw a lot more new things into the mix. So I'm curious to see where that's going to go, especially considering that she seems to be rooting for the human side, unlike the other witches we've seen thus far. And the last question I was asked, well, not the last question, but the last one that I wrote on the list for here was, they asked who my current favorite character was. And I thought about it for a while. I was going to say Beatrice initially, just because I liked kind of the way that she was able to give all these different emotions. She started off, as we all know, very mean and very dangerous, I guess is the right word for that. But she later turned into this kind of sad, and you could relate with her person in this last chapter, which turned out to be a lie, but that means she's very good at acting. But I thought about it some more, and one of my favorite moments from this chapter was with Kyrie. Now, why do I like her? Well, she seems to be very level-headed through all of this, and she knows good methods of dealing with problems and puzzles. And that seems to be kind of why she gets killed off so quickly so far. Now, this is the first chapter where she actually had some decent time to get through this. So I'd be curious to see if maybe she has the ability to solve the riddle later. I'm sure she will. But the biggest reason I really liked her was, of course, the fight that she had in the mansion. She was just so cool through all that. Though you could tell as she was conversing with the demons of purgatory or whatever, that she was dealing with some massive demons of her own. Namely, with her family and with Cross's first wife, or not Cross, Rudolph, that's the word I meant. Rudolph's first wife. She's definitely still having problems with that years later, but that did kind of make her power level increase or some other video gamey thing. It was cool nonetheless, and that's why she's my current favorite character. Anyway, sorry about the format of all of this. I know there wasn't nearly as much thought or work put into this as some of my other thoughts, and I do apologize for that, but I've just been so busy recently, and I can tell it's not going to clear up soon. So I just didn't have nearly enough time to put into this, and I apologize if anyone's annoyed by that, but I'm doing what I can. Let's just say that. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying the Let's Play so far, or Let's Read, or whatever you'd call it. Thoughts? Something? I don't know. I call it a Let's Play, but there's not a whole lot of decision making, or any at all. Just wanted to thank everyone who keeps commenting on the videos. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to... I'll be on my break at work, and I'll pull out my phone, take a look at my emails, because that's where YouTube sends comments and stuff, and I can just read through all the comments before I get home, and it's just so nice, because I'll upload the video at like midnight, and before I go to work, I'll check some comments for like half an hour, and then realize, crap, I gotta get to work, and then I'll be at work, and I'll read comments again for another half an hour. It's so nice being able to read all this. It really is, and I appreciate it a lot, so thank you guys for continuing to watch. Yeah, that's about all I got. Just, I had 500 subscribers recently, and when you just sit down and think about how many people that is, that's a lot of people, isn't it? That really is, and it's kind of mind-blowing to me, just thinking about it. Just the thought of potentially 500 people watching me. I know it doesn't always happen, but just whenever I upload, a video, namely the Umineko ones more, but when I upload one of those videos, and then a day later it's got 100 views, like, that's kind of crazy to me. Just the thought that 100 people have seen something that I made, it's mind-blowing, really. So thank you guys. I really appreciate that, because it's something very exciting, to be sure. Also, I did mention something about doing a stream over the weekend, aka, now. That didn't happen, unfortunately. After a bit of thought, there was a lot going on, so that didn't happen. I did record me playing some video games with a friend, or me playing video games while we both commented on them. And I'm still working on editing that if anyone's interested. I just had a couple bad video games in my library, because sometimes I like to pick up bad video games just to make commentary of them. And I decided to do a couple with him, though he was a bit tired because he spent the whole night staying up and not sleeping. So that didn't help much, but if anyone's interested in something like that, that should be uploaded soon. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna go and record some Umineko. See you guys in a bit. Bye!